let's go inside.
Today guys, we're going to be talking sharpening. Sharpening mainly on the lathe. So that's going to be gouges, scrapers, skew. I'm going to talk briefly about drill bits and various stones, diamonds, CBN, and I'm also going to talk about steel and carbide for a little bit. Not very long. Here's the grinder over here. I have a CBN wheel, 180 grit. It's a 5-in-1 from Wood Wonders in America, I believe. It's got abrasive on this edge. This edge here has got a radius, flat, another radius, and there's also abrasive on that side there. Not on this inside edge. And when you get one of these, make sure you get the washer for it. It's got a little special offset washer that you put on there to make sure that the wheel runs nice and true when you get them. And here's my little homemade Wolverine jig. And it comes in and out. Just got a little water trough here. Just the jig there I can tighten down and loosen off, find all my marks. And yeah, so this video, don't get too hung up about angles and shapes and all that sort of stuff. This is just how I do it. Alright, we'll get into it. So I do realise not all of you guys are going to have one of these wheels, CBN or aluminium oxide or a grinder even. You might not even have that. I mean, that's what I had when I started. I didn't even have a grinder. This is what I started off with. So with one of these little guys, just a little cheapo disc sander. I cut the table off it just so I could get clearance on my homemade Wolverine jig and the gouge around the corners. And it's just got a piece of wood there, super glued on. Sorry, hot glued on. It's probably super glued too. Just so I could put it above my little jig here, and then it's the same thing as a grinder basically then, and you can pull out your distance. Just imagine this is where the wheel is, and then it just works the same way. Apart from, if you are using one of these, the wheel rotation will push the tool around. So if it's up here, it's going to try and push the tool off the side, down here, down the bottom. You can use this to make burrs, like use your scrapers over here, and if the top edge is the cutting edge, it will pull the burr up onto there. It's very good for that. Very cheap, adjustable speed, and that's why I modified it, because it was so cheap, The only thing about these is the sandpaper. It's kind of pricey with the sandpaper. Various grits. You can get, I know you can get ceramic, silicon carbide, all that sort of stuff. There's even some newer types of sandpaper out, but they all wear out pretty quick, especially compared to against CBN. That never wears out. So it's kind of expensive replacing those. It's good to start off with, but yeah, after a little while, it gets a little pricey. That's when I moved over to bit the bullet and got all that. If you're just starting off and you don't want to spend a lot of money in this, then you can just get this sort of system. Make yourself a little wooden block to go in and out, and you're away. I mean, there's one step further even. If you've just got an old motor lying around, an old electric motor, I just mounted a plate on here. I only use this for honing. It's just got abrasive on this NDF, but you could just easily put Velcro on here, big Velcro discs, big sandpapers. You could even put a nice table on this, a nice angling table, and there you go, you got a disc sander. If this is what you're lying around and you found something like that, you could just do that. But this is how I started off with. And the same thing on these, you got to be aware of the rotation, because if you just stick a chisel on here and it digs in, don't blame me, I told you. Alright, but it's basically, this is a slower speed. This is off a lathe, this motor. It only goes 1400, I think. But a lot of motors, they'll go 3000, so you'll be kind of careful about that too. But I think that's all I've got to say about that. If you don't have a lot of money, you can start off over here, or even no money, you could just find a motor and put some sandpaper on it. Or you can be like most of us and just go in there and get a grinder and some sort of wheel. It doesn't have to be CBN. They are nice though. And yeah, we'll get back to the sharpening. Today we're over here at the sharpening bench, next to the slow speed grinder here. I've had it for about a good 2 years now, and it's in its mint. So I'll just show you a couple of the things about I've got going on over here. So I've got a little water trough here that comes out. This just collects most of the metallic dust, not all of it. And you sort of end up with a sludge at the bottom that you need to clean out every now and then. I do just have a little water garden sprayer here that I just pump up, because I don't have any running water out here, and this water evaporates all slowly. So I just fill it up with water, and this catches a lot of the dust. And then under there, I've got my own jig. It's sort of like the Wolverine jig for getting all my distances off the wheel. I do have some holes in here, and what I do is it just comes through this block and it runs on some bearings just to keep it nice and straight and tight. I've got some markings down here where I would have it. So basically I just go down and I find that notch and I just pull it forward, tighten down, and that's the setting. I've got settings way out to here, so I just find the little indent that I've already got and I just pull it forward, and it's the same every time. So this fully comes out. This shield also comes off, this splatter shield. That's all this is for. It's just some acrylic that I've super glued together, and it does come off. Oh. Not the easiest, but it does come off if I ever need to change the wheel. And I'll just show you the inside of this. So that's all it stops, is a lot of the splatter when I'm cleaning the wheel and just overall. It's just hot glued on there. It just sits on the bench with one screw hole, so it gets in the same place every time. I'll show you now. It's just got one of these big screws on it. And as long as you go in the same hole, you can see there, same place every time, doesn't rub. This is just a little guard when I'm cleaning it off. I can show you cleaning the CBN wheel now, because it is a little bit clogged, and they do tend to clog. And once they're clogged, they don't really work. I just use some CRC. You can use anything, WD-40, whatever. I do also have this one disc stick from Woodturner Wonders that you're supposed to stick on there when you first get the CBN wheel, and it does work on other tool saw blades and stuff like that, like your bandsaw blade, and it's supposed to help lubricate and keep the metal filings and stuff from clogging up. And I'll show you how you put it on. But for cleaning, I just close this lid. I've just got a little bit of cardboard here to stop the spray from all coming out and getting me and everything. I just turn it on and just spray. Once the spray stops coming off, I just use a little rag, and this will collect. I'll use a clean one so you can can see. There's no metal on there. Look at that. That's how you clean it off. I only use this when I'm cleaning this little lid. So it does take a while to spin down. And on the other side here, I've just got a wire wheel, so when the tools get a bit dirty, I've got one here. So when the tools get a bit dirty on the end, there isn't too much on this one, but there's a little bit of sap. I just take it over here, wire wheel it, so it doesn't clog up this wheel with just organic matter. And that wheel's now clean. So this one just stick. It's sort of like a glue stick, it just comes out. And all it needs is like one swipe. So you turn it on, and that's it. That's all you need. Supposedly it does work on bandsaw blades and other things, but I don't generally use it on that. So we'll go through some of the tools that we're going to sharpen today. So I've got a selection of scrapers. These are basically all my tuning tools. So I have a selection of scrapers over here. I've got a skew and my gouges. There is the ring tools. I've got a separate video on sharpening those ring tools because that's mainly done by hand in another jig. But these are all the tools that I do on the grinder. I think we'll start off on this side with the scrapers. So I've got a few scrapers here, a few for tenors and two for tenors and recess. So I've got the different, they go different angles, different ways. So I can go in and make a tenon, or I can go in and make a dovetail recess. And then I've sort of got a long scraper here for like a box. It's just a sort of French curve. Parting tool works like a scraper basically. I sharpen it at the same angle. I've got a small parting tool here, and I've got a big round nose. There's no negative rakes on any of these. Sometimes I do put a negative rake on this round nose, but currently it doesn't have one. And the angle that I sharpen these to, this angle here at the top, is 40 degrees. I mean 70 degrees, sorry. 70 degrees. So we're almost, so 90's straight up and down, and this is slightly over at 70 degrees to give you a nice strong support for that burr. We'll go over here to and I'll show you how I set up for my scrapers. So I just put that piece of wood in again, and I've got a few jigs up here on a shelf, all pre-made, so I just got to grab them, push it in to its distance, and it's perfect every time. So my scrapers, I actually grind them upside down, so the wheel's turning this way, coming down onto it, so you're pulling that burr off. You can do it this way, a lot of people do it this way, but I've actually got this on a negative angle, so going down onto the, so all I do is just do a twisting motion on this. See, but as you can see, there's no facets on there, and that's now got a burr on it. It's the same with my parting tool. Comes in, and that's it. So you don't need to see all the scrapers. All the scrapers are done on this, upside down on the piece of wood. What's next? We'll do the skew next, eh? So the skew jig, it's the same sort of thing. I just got a block here made up, and the skew. So this is a skew. This included angle here is 30 degrees, 15 degrees either side. So this is 15 degrees on the skew on either side. So you get an included angle of 30. And the way I like to grind my skews is with a flat right here for about the first third or so, maybe quarter, and then I have a round over at 70 degrees. So this part of the skew is actually straight, like a parting tool, so I can actually use that as a parting tool and do a peeling cut. And then from this straight bit to over here, I've got a 70 degree. So here's 90, here's 70. Just for the people that are curious, I mean, it's not an all-in be-all, this grind. I'm not telling you that this is gospel either. So this is set to 70 degrees, this carpenter's angle here. And that top bit there is, as you can see, where it starts at that black line goes to the corner, it's 70. And at the bottom, I mean, we're close enough to 70 there. And that just gives me, so that keeps the bevel all the same size all the way around using something like this. You can tell, I mean, if you're off, these angles will be too low or too high and you could be able to adjust. But something between 60 and 70 degrees is probably good enough. Some people do a straight grind on these, nothing wrong with that. This is just the way I do it. I also have this side here flattened, so I can come down and do bead cuts like that. This side's just round, so I can do my planing cuts without it digging into the tool rest too much. And so for grinding, I just come straight up and sort of do a sideways for the flat, and then when ready for the curve, you just curve it around, and you got to keep pushing it up, because if you just curve, the tool sort of comes away from the stone. So you got to keep it up, and then you just come around and get your hollow grind. Now I'm not going to do this again because I've already got it all sharpened. And then once you got your hollow grind, all I use is a little diamond plate here, 600 grit. It's got 300 on that side, but I just use the 600. And I just go on that top bevel first, and then you come down. Once you feel it, just work off it, just like that. See, I've already removed that top bit of marking. That's sharp now. That's sharp enough. That's the skew. Now, bowl gouges. We'll start off with the roughing gouge, just down here on the jig. It's got a little stopper block here at the end. So I just pull it out to my roughing gouge mark. There's a little indent here. And with the screw, the bolt, I can feel where it is, right there. And my bowl gouge, this angle here, I've got it at 60 degrees. And I just stick it on the bottom down here, on here. And that's the bowl gouge done. I mean the spindle roughing gouge, that's what this is. This is my bowl gouge. It's got a little bit of a sweep back on it. The angle back from the heel, I believe it's about a 60 degree angle, which does let me get to the bottom of most bowls. And I can also still use these sweep back wings for shear cutting and other various cuts. This particular gouge, I've made its own holder, so there's no setting this, getting this wrong. All I need to do is put this in here, And then I've got a little hole in the wall up here that I just stick this into, and it's got a depth stop at 50mm, I believe. And then you just tighten this down. There's a little T-nut in there, you probably can't see it, but I just put the T-nut in the bottom here, and then I just made a little handle for it. And then I just set the bottom rail down here to my bowl gouge setting. Pull it forward once I'm on that bolt, and it just goes on this top piece I got here. And then I set it on there and do about 2 turnovers like that. I'm not going to do it right now because I haven't set it in the hole properly, but basically I just go put it on there and just go like that on one side, and then I come back and it's done. And for my smaller gouges, I've just got this one here set up for my spindle gouge. Same thing, it goes in that little hole. You can see it a bit better on this one how it works. This was the first one I actually made. It is adjustable, but I just leave it in that setting there. Can't tell you what it is. I just found that setting and I like it. And that's the same thing. I do have another setting on here for my spindle gouge. And yeah, that just goes on there like that. Sorry, that's the wrong setting. But yeah, same thing as the bowl gouge, just around like that. Sharpen that. That's my spindle gouge. And I've got a small bowl gouge too. This one has a very deep flute on it, so it's good for detail work. One little last tip is if you get, I'll show you on the big gouge, is if you get these two sides out of line, if one of these starts becoming slightly further back than the other, one of the tricks I like to do is I like to stick it on the side here and get the handle as parallel as you can, or as square as you can. You just stick it on there for a second and you will see the fat spot where it is not sharp. And this just helps you from getting a big hook nose or the nose going back and getting funny shapes on there. This is just how I help you square it up. So you stick it on there for like a second or two, and that will give you some flat spots that you will see, and you just keep grinding those flat spots, the thicker areas around wherever they may be. Might be on the tip, might be on the edge, but you just keep grinding those away, and then just do one normal pass at the end and you should be back at a normal shape. I've done that once or twice because I have gotten the nose a little bit hooky before, and it can make it a little bit diggy when you're trying to go into wood. If you're going in and this nose is actually coming out, that means you've ground the wing back too much. And if the nose is too far back, it means you haven't ground the wings enough, basically. I mean, and if you don't have a side wheel like this, if you've just got a front face, I'll just use a piece of sandpaper on your bench and just line it up as flat as you can, and you will see the high spots. You won't see the sharp bits, you'll see the high spots. Alright, so what else we got? I almost forgot about this. Drill bits. I'll show you how I go about sharpening drill bits, various drill bits, here on the same wheel that I use for all my turning tools. Now you can do a lot of this with just a good file, a quality file. Buy yourself a quality file. Don't just use something old that you found in someone's shed or whatever. And you can also use diamond stones. These are cheap ones. I sort of do and don't recommend these ones. They wear out very quick. Whatever holds the diamonds on isn't very good. And as you can see, they're very thin, so they don't actually stay flat. These other ones though, these smaller ones, a few companies make them, but yeah, I'd recommend getting one of these ones like DMT, or I think there's a few other companies that make them, but these little cards are good. I like these double-sided ones. This is a 300 and a 600. This is a coarse one, but they aren't going to do the same sort of work that a file can do. But the file can't get the edge that sharp. That's where these diamonds come in. Or you could just use a normal oil stone or something. Now, drill bits. I'll talk briefly about carbide. I don't sharpen carbide on CBN, mainly because I just don't want to wear the CBN out, because carbide is pretty hard. And the other thing about carbide is, because it's normally a sintered metal, is in they just heat it up in pressure and then they make inserts. See on this, it's only that one piece there that's carbide. The rest of this is just cast steel or something. So long story short, that pretty much means the grain structure of carbide is a lot bigger than high-speed steel, and when you sharpen it, it tends to just break off pieces, whereas steel is a lot finer grain structure usually, unless you get some really high-end forged carbide bits or something. But most carbide you come across is just these cheap inserts that have been just sintered. And so I don't really sharpen these ones, so I don't really use these ones that much. I'm also on the lathe, when I'm doing greenwood, I use steel bits, high-speed steel. The whole thing is high-speed steel, and I sharpen it down. Got a few different sizes here. Usually I'll start off with, this is a 40mm, then this is a 68mm, and then if the lathe can handle it, I'll put this big boy in there. I don't usually use these center spikes because it will pull in the drill. I usually take that out, and usually when you pre-drilled out, that spiral isn't hitting anything anyways until you get to the bottom. It's just that edge that's cutting on either side because you've already drilled out the middle. So I don't use this one that much because it does bog my little lathe down, but it's pretty cool, eh? Look at that, look at the size of that. That's 100 and, oh no, that's a 92mm. This one I probably use the most. So yeah, if there is only light work required on these drill bits, I will only just use a card, you know, on these faces. Unless there's a big chip or something, I'll just do something like that, and that's probably more than enough. So the front part of these side cutters can be above this front cutter, but the backs of them have either got to be flush or slightly, or go down. So this one's been, I've done a bit of sharpening on this one. They start off with a point, that angle there goes all the way up, so you can see how much I've ground down. And you see how much life you can get in this tool though. So yeah, I'll just do, unless there's a big damage in the drill bits, which normally there isn't because we're only going into wood, I'll use the wheel and I'll just match it up on there to grind it. Or you can just mount it in a vise and use a nice good quality file. If you gotta go buy one, it's cheaper than diamond stones or anything like that, just getting a couple of good files. There are cheap files, but like I said, I don't recommend getting those cheap ones. They all delaminate and they wear out pretty quick. These little card ones that you can get from sort of some of the bigger vendors out there work pretty good. But yeah, if they just need a little bit of touch up, I'll just do that. And that's probably all it needs, and then every now and then you'll probably need to do the side cutters. It's the same thing on this big one, it's just bigger. It's a little bit rusty because I use it on green wood. They work really well on green wood, not so much on dry wood. Dry wood, a gouge is probably better, but on wet wood these just eat it up, especially if you've got a lot to do. It's a lot easier just to, these will last a lot longer than your gouge will, too. Your expensive bowl gouge. So yeah, that's those drill bits there. This one probably gets used the most, and then, well, because it's always going first, and then this one does the main hogging. I don't really use this big one because the lathe isn't quite powerful enough for that. Now when it comes to these braid bits, they're a little bit easier to sharpen on the wheel here. You just same thing, you come in, you're just touching that top edge. All this is already sharp. All you're doing is just touching up that top edge there if it's got any damage on it. Just like that. And then we have normal bits here, drill bits. Now this is quite a sharp angle that you wouldn't really use this on a metal. This is just for wood mainly. But yeah, this one you just come up and you, sorry the camera's moving away. But yeah, these ones you basically just come up and you just rub that back big of all. And so there's no space between the bevel and that cutting edge. And you just try and keep those edges the same length. Like I said, I just use this for wood mainly, so that angle's a bit sharp for metal. But the angle doesn't matter as long as it's sharp. This will still do metal, it's just, it might tear up the edge a bit. You can see it's still a little bit torn up. But yeah, those are just drill bits there that I do. I don't use these often on the lathe, it's just when I'm doing something green and I just want to get rid of the middle quickly. I mean, sometimes I won't even bother, I'll just use the gouge and happy days, a couple extra cuts. So one of the other things, knowing what I know now, after 2 years of having this wheel, is I probably wouldn't have got a rounded one with rounded edges. I probably would have got, I think it's called the Mega Square, and it's got square edges here. I mean, the whole purpose of having these rounded edges is so you can have a scraper and you can sharpen it just like this. You can just go, but when you do that, it actually changes the angle on the side here, and it makes it too steep to get into the side of bowls, bowls, boxes and that sort of thing. So all I've been doing with the scraper is pivoting, so I'm not even using those rounded edges. I mean, the other thing you could use them for is maybe a captive ring tool. I mean, yeah, like I said, knowing what I know now, I probably would have got a square one at 180 grit. I mean, I'll probably still get another wheel at some stage. It'll probably be an 80 grit square, just so I can do other metalwork stuff too, and reshape grinds if I have to quickly. But all you need for a first wheel is 180. That's enough to get a good finish, and it's fast enough also to grind. When I first did get this grinder, it came with a couple of these aluminium oxide wheels, which are great if that's all you got, that's what you're using. But you do have to keep them true with a tool, and they do get quite dusty, and it changes your measurement every time you grind it or use it. It actually gets slightly smaller, so all your settings down here, you need another, it's a funny little triangular, I'll see if I can get a picture of one, a funny little triangle angle finder. But there's none of this nonsense with CBN. And sometimes you need CBN for some of your higher end tool steels. Maybe not so much N2, but some of the other stuff, that cryogenic stuff, it might be a bit hard for the aluminium oxide, and the CBN is a lot harder than the aluminium oxide, so it cuts a lot better rather than just smashing the edge, which aluminium oxide can do. That's all I wanted to really talk about with the wheel after having it for 2 years. I would probably get a square one if I do this again, a square edge one. Like I said, just because I got this mainly just for doing the scraper, so that's the only movement you had to do. But if you do that, you actually end up with almost a straight up and down angle here on the sides, so it's not very good for going in on the side and getting stuff. So I've been just spinning it on the face, just like that. And yeah, most of us bite the bullet and we just get a CBN wheel on a grinder. It doesn't have to be slow speed. Slow speed is just nice, you don't heat up the steel. But these CBN wheels, they don't really heat up the steel because they're big heat sinks in a way. Just all this aluminium, so it pulls the heat away rather than just leaving the heat in the metal tool, which aluminium oxide wheels do. And yeah, just got this one on here for cleaning off the set. And I think that's about it for this video. Let me guys know what you got for sharpening. You got a grinder like this, or you got something simpler? Until next time, cheers. If you guys got any questions, please let me know. I do respond to the comments. Now, I'm not going to call myself someone that's very knowledgeable on metals or metal work, as on fabrication and drilling and all that sort of stuff. But this is just how I do it, and I get nice sharp tools. So, thanks for watching, everyone.